Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is BMT coming at you. I wanted to go ahead and do this one out of respect for Collin Powell, a man that has broken history, that has changed the world, and has done a lot. And you never know truly how you're seen, or how you're taken, or how you are received until you pass on. And so I wanted to I wanted to do this one. First off, I send my condolences to his family. I send my condolences to those who served with him. Um, I really do. So I'm not going to only just do that as just BT today, but I'm also going to do that as a veteran. Get my hat on. Yep. So I'm going to do this today as a veteran, and uh, you understand the you gotta understand the mantle that you take on when you serve this country and what they give you. There you go. Just had to say that. Share that. Like, share, subscribe if you can. Um, but even in death, some people their names still get used. You gotta stay healthy. And even as he passed away, his name is still being used to further certain people's agendas, to further certain people's talking points. Like the man done passed, and people are still using his name. And Mrs. Powell, I do apologize the way people use him. I know people say, "Well, BMT, are you using him?" No, I respect the man. I honor that of General Collin Powell, former General Collin Powell. But he still is a general. He understood, and he walked that light of what he did. And so I'm going to have that. I'm going to show just how, with my reaction, of how certain people use his name to further their agenda. And it seems like no man does, especially a black man. You know, y'all don't want to hear that. Y'all gonna say, man, what do you gotta do with race? Like, no, man, like it's pretty jacked up. I don't approve of what they're doing, so I be kicking my light sometimes. But I don't approve of them doing what they're doing with his name. I don't. So I'm gonna go ahead and just get this knocked out. Let me make sure I put up the fair use. And we're going to look at what people are saying about his name. How people are talking about him. And I'm going to show you the comments. Because people always forget the sacrifices that some do. People forget. So let's get to it. Let's get to it and let's show. It seems like it amazes me nobody's talking about this man. So let's get to it with showing you Collin Powell, first black U.S. Secretary of State, dies at 84 years old. This is DW News. Fair use, fair use, fair use.
Of State Collin Powell has died from complications caused by COVID-19. He was 84 years old. Mr. Powell was the first black U.S. Secretary of State. He served 3 Republican presidents in various capacities, culminating in his tenure as Secretary of State under U.S. President George W. Bush. His reputation was tarnished after he presented false intelligence reports to the United Nations to justify the U.S. invasion of Iraq in 2003, which he later regretted. His family says he was fully vaccinated against COVID-19. Well, to reflect on the legacy of Secretary of State Collin Powell, we are now joined by Liz Schulke. She is a U.S. policy analyst in Baltimore, Maryland. Liz, good to have you back on. We understand that Secretary of State Powell died from COVID-19 complications. What more can you tell us? What have we heard from his family?
His family released a statement this morning saying Secretary Powell was completely vaccinated. We do know that he was battling a rare form of blood cancer, which made him immunosuppressed. So despite being...
So letting you know right now, because you're going to hear the people come in and say, oh, the vaccine killed them and X, Y, and Z. You just heard it from the woman. He was already battling cancer and he was already immunosuppressed. Now, some people are already asking, BMT. You know. Immunosuppressed, having a weakened immune system. People who have an immunosuppressed have a reduced ability to fight infections, other diseases. This may be caused by certain diseases or conditions such as AIDS, cancer, diabetes, malnutrition, and certain genetic disorders. So we're going to hear people talk about, I'm telling you, people are going to take this man's name to further their agenda. They're going to watch. Now, you just heard it. The family just told that he was immunosuppressed. There are a lot of people that are immunosuppressed. That means they literally have weak immune systems. I mean, it does not take much to take them down. Literally, a common cold is literally like the bubonic plague for them. Okay? So, letting y'all know.
Fully vaccinated. We hope that this is a lesson to all those out there to continue to get vaccinated, to protect the loved ones that even have that protection but are in a special category.
Liz, let's talk now about Collin Powell. Who was Collin Powell?
Collin Powell was a icon for American diplomacy. He set the stage for what is possible in the American dream. As you already said, he was the first Black Joint Chiefs of Staff, the first Black Secretary of State, but he also had this kind of gigantic, what he later called, blot on his stain, on his legacy. I think he'll forever be associated with the decision to go into the Iraq War and the erroneous facts around weapons of mass destruction that really fueled the actions there.
So let's get that out the way. Everybody understands. They hold that over him, and as you can already see down below, and nothing of value is lost. Very interesting way to say blatant lies. This man is my hero. He single-handedly convinced Congress to go to war with a vow of washing powder. As he ascended to the state of heaven, he may shake the hands of each and every single Iraqi who died in that pointless war. He may have done some good things in his life, but all that is remember is him lying now, saying that I was being sent to Iraq. So, as you see, there are people in the comments that see it as a liar. Though we hear this thing, to serve and do your American duty, to sacrifice for your country, to die for your country, this is what they put on him. BMT, you had feedback from your mic for months. It's either your mic or plug and wire. Please listen to yourself afterwards. It's more noticeable when you're on the panel. Okay. Rest in peace, Collin Powell. No, yeah, he was back, but he died of immunity. Yeah, like I said, like a lot of people, have it where as to the man, pretty much he did his job. I'm being so for real about it. The man did his job. What do you expect? That's a job of you as a chief of staff. You back your country. Politicians lie. President lies. People lie. Bush wanted that war. But, of course, he had to go down with it. People going to say, well, he didn't have to. That's your job. That was your job. I know. Y'all got to understand, like, when you start getting up there, there's higher powers at play. There's higher powers at play. He was a cog of one of many. And I hate when people try to take this road of a sentence like, hey, like, he should have, like this moral ground. Welcome to America. The place that everybody likes to come to, but we're so bad. But everybody likes coming over here. But it amazing, people always have so much to say about it. Get back to it. So, this is how people are talking about him.
We'll talk about that a little later on. But first, talk to us a little bit about what made him such an influential person.
It was definitely the breadth of his career. You know, he started under Reagan, went through H.W. Bush and W. Bush. I think as well, he was a man that was just seen with incredible integrity. Coming into the 2008 election, there was a lot of conversation around Barack Obama's religion. Collin Powell was a registered Republican, but he called on his party to do better. And he said the question isn't, is Obama a Republican or Christian, a Muslim or Christian? It's, so what if he is? And he tells the story about serving with folks in the military from all faiths, and that's what it means to be American. And that's just one small example of a man that just really led with integrity.
Led with integrity, impeccable record, personal record, well respected, as you outlined, and a lot of people describe him as one of the most trusted people in the Bush administration. But as you alluded to a short while ago, I mean, his political credibility suffered a major blow in 2003 when he basically paved the way for the war in Iraq. Will that have a lasting impact on his legacy?
It has absolutely already had a lasting impact. I think it's a conversation on two strains. One, his trust in the national intelligence. He talked about, he was given this information 4 days before his speech. He chose to run with it, which frankly speaks to his leadership, right? Do you go with something because it's planned, it's ordered by your president, when you're not sure the sources, with the devastating consequences? He also felt that the president already made the decision to go into war, and he was the person, the role he could play would bring the UN on. He felt very strongly that America should go in with allies. I think the second part of his lasting legacy is he's a man that was willing to admit his mistakes. This is not something we saw really come out of much out of the Bush administration, but he had many interviews. He talked about the false information he gave, and seemed more open to saying there was some fallibility in my decisions, and I own up to them, and I will do better.
All right, Liz Shulka, U.S. policy analyst, talking to us from Baltimore, Maryland. Thank you so much for weighing in. Greatly appreciate it.
So in saying that, and like I said, if you want to rewatch whatever is being talked about, and looking at a lot of stuff, it's something that you can rewatch it, check it out, and see it for yourself. But yeah, they're gonna use that. They're gonna use it as their agenda for war. And I already showed you why people say what they said about him. But then it's funny. Now we're over to Fox News. Fox News is over there. Let me see if I can pull them up. Not now. And then I go over to Fox News. Collin Powell dies of COVID-19 complications despite vaccine. Medical experts weigh in. So,
we have reinvented COVID. We are what we do and why we do it. We are delivering a smoke-free future faster.
Let me get this out the way. Okay.
Ari Fleischer joins our conversation. Former White House press secretary. Good morning to you. And in a general sense, what did
he contributed his graciousness. He just had a warmth, ability, uplift to him, and I think it has to be said as the first Black Secretary of State. He conveyed a sense of this is who America is. He was just a good guy, and that's what I will always remember about him. I got to know him very well.
Ari, in your time with him, what did he speak about in terms of his commitment or obligation to the country? Because here's a man throughout his entire professional life, all he did was serve America.
Yeah, it was just that. It was service and it was duty. But he did it with such a uplifting, affable style. You know, a lot of generals, you look at them on TV and they're gruff, they're tough. Collin Powell could be gruff and tough, but Collin Powell was a sweetheart. He just had such an uplifting way about everything he did, and he treated people with such kindness and respect everywhere he went. And he was just that kind of leader, that type of man that you were just privileged to say, I rub shoulders with a guy like Collin Powell. I got to know him. He just had that way about him. He made you feel good about yourself because he made you feel good. He touched everybody that way.
Ari, a lot of people, of course, remember his military service and then, of course, the Iraq War, but there was a lot of diplomacy that went on. What did you witness in terms of his approach to dealing with big world problems and representing the United States on the world stage?
Well, one, he represented the United States, knowing the United States was good. I mean, his right away approach was, we represent what's right and good around the world, and if we can help people see it our way, we're going to help them to improve themselves. And so it was almost America first without saying America first, because he lived America first. And that, I think, infused everything he did and how he communicated. Such pride in our nation. He wanted others to feel that pride. There's one other story about Collin Powell I want to quickly tell, and that was after the recount in 2000, the contested election between George W. Bush and Al Gore. The first nomination that George Bush announced was Collin Powell as Secretary of State. It was a divisive period for the country. The recount wore on and on and on. Bush won as a result of the Supreme Court ruling. The very first thing he did was to try to bring the country together was to announce Collin Powell. Because Powell typified unification. He typified bringing people together. And it was more than symbolic. It was deliberate to make Collin Powell the first person to push his cabinet. And it sent a signal about being a uniter, not a divider, as Bush would put it. But it just only Collin Powell could have been that first, because he had that ability to bring people together.
All right, Fleischer, thank you so much for your time this morning. Of course.
Okay, so we understand that he was used as a proxy to show that, hey, you as a black person, you can be risen to the highest heights. He understood that all eyes were on him. General Collin Powell, former secretary, died Monday, 84, at the age from COVID-related complication, even though he was fully vaccinated. Y'all forget, like I said, I don't get why. Let me just read on his death. Medical experts say underscores the need for COVID vaccine, booster shots among older adults and high risk populations to shore up protection. Powell was afflicted with other diseases, including Parkinson's and his blood cancer, multiple myeloma. I hope I butchered that, which could hamper recovery from COVID-19 infection. According to reports, his family didn't specify when Powell received the vaccine or whether he had taken a booster shot. Also, studies have shown that certain patients with weak immune systems don't always elicit substantial levels of COVID-19 vaccine-induced antibodies. And regulators in August authorized a third dose of the Pfizer and Moderna COVID-19 vaccine for certain vulnerable patients, like solid organ transplant recipients, patients taking treatment for the blood cancers or tumors, among other patients with conditions considered to have similar level of immunocompromised, according to the Center of Disease Control, also known as the CDC. So we have it where people talk about, one, he was the bridge to bridge all races together to show that even you can rise to the highest level of power if you just work hard and believe. But then you're writing this article talking about COVID, using this man's name, saying this is why you don't get the vaccine. Look at Collin Powell, he died. Very shady, Very shady, Fox News. I couldn't understand why would they do something like that on the man's passing, bro? Why would y'all use this man's name? But then again, people use your name to further their agendas. I'm only just reading. The same way we get to look at how doggone the same way we get to look at on how I'm just saying that's pretty messed up. I don't agree with it. I don't. But that's what they're doing. That's what they're saying about the man, that he pretty much fueler of war, which he literally, as the one guy said, yo man, like he put his country first. He did. He stuck to the plan. He stuck to knowing that, hey, I'm probably gonna take some hits for this. Sometimes, I feel like Paul Mooney said, black folks are way too loyal. They are. Old loyal hound dogs. But he did his job. He did his job. He showed that a black kid from South Bronx could rise to one of the highest levels in the nation. He changed world history and U.S. history. He did that. So that's something that Collin Powell did. Well, you guys, do I have anything else to say on this man? Guys that battling cancer, pretty much the same stuff. You're gonna have people might talk about him. I couldn't understand why the men in this space probably wouldn't want to talk about him. What's going on, Faith? Was it COVID or the vaccine that caused his death? No, he was old. He had a weak immune system. He had a weak immune system. So anything, that's why he had an immuno. The man had because you're gonna have it where, and the man had an immunosuppressed system. He had an immunosuppressed system. It means because of he already had cancer, he already had blood, he already had all kind of things happening to him. He had all kind of health complications already. Like, this man was already ticking that death door. So we're not going to try to say, well, Collin Powell was healthy one day. That man's been sick. He's been sick. But people are going to say it was the vaccine that killed him, when literally the family told you, yo, like Collin had issues. He had medical issues. You know what I'm saying? Like, the man had medical issues through and through. That was just one of the stuff that was going on with him. And you got it where, Fox News, of course, they're little assholes. I'm a little bit disgusted with them, but I know they're going to usually tell people don't get the vaccine, and that's on them. That's on them. I mean, honestly, that's on them. But the people that work inside that station, they're all vaccinated, and believe that. They're all vaccinated. That's why I don't believe when people be talking these things at the side of the neck. He had Parkinson. He already had blood cancer. He had multiple. Powell was afflicted with other diseases, including Parkinson and the blood cancer, multiple pneumonia. Let's look up what the hell that is. No, I don't really want to look. Let me because you're gonna already have it where they're gonna just say everything COVID, 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 COVID. Let's look up this right here. I want to find out. Let's look up multiple pneumonia. Multiple pneumonia. Multiple myeloma is a cancer that forms in a type of white blood cell called a plasma cell. Healthy plasma cells help you fight infections by making antibodies, but recognize and attack germs. In multiple myeloma, cancerous plasma cells accumulate in the bone marrow and crowd out healthy blood cells. This man was already on the ticker. Shout out to you, General. You was in a whole different war than this, man. He was already in a whole different war than what a lot of people already know. You would think a lot of black men would be talking about this guy and giving him praise because he paved the way for a lot of them to actually strive for excellence. He had a family. He had a good core. He had a lot of beliefs. But they're not talking about him. Like whatever stuff, or like I said, you would think this would be big news in these type of spaces. That a black man that broke history, that changed the world, the first U.S. Secretary, this man literally spoke words and the military did. This is before y'all even knew what a Barack Obama was. First level of Barack Obama was Collin Powell. So before y'all even could say Barack Obama, you have to acknowledge Collin Powell. Before y'all can even acknowledge anybody, like, listen, all them other people, them multifaceted people that are millionaires and billionaires, they don't stack to what Collin Powell did in the world. They don't. That's what I'm saying. Like, it mind boggles me how people are not speaking about this man. That a lot of people around the world know him for his diplomacy, for the way he moved in different political atmospheres and stuff. This man was not cheap. It was not. He spoke very, very, very confidently about stuff. I listened to one or two of his speeches. I remember I was getting on a plane, and we watched him on the prompter talk to a lot of us soldiers. And I can understand why a lot of men would follow him. This man stood amongst other men. So, he definitely was a somebody. I could give a damn if This is a man that we need to actually just give our roses to, because he paved the way for a lot of y'all, whether y'all know it or not. It is when people actually care. Well, that's why it's my response. That's why it's my response. 84 years old, rose to the highest seats in the land. This is BMT. I thank you for your time. I thank y'all for coming through. Much respect. Shout out to all the content creators. Shout out to all the mods. Shout out to everyone who came through. Peace.